All right, Ag Mechanics, it is Wednesday, October the 7th. So today in class, we started by doing a brief review of yesterday's tools that we went over and just kind of talked about some general safety stuff. And then we reviewed affiliate membership. So like I told everybody in class today, if you are enrolled in a class, you will not be required to pay FFA dues this year. It is being paid for you, which is a real advantage. And then today our focus was on safe use of power tools. So what we did is we kind of cruised through here and we talked about some basic safety things and some do's and some don'ts. And there's a couple things that you want to have highlighted as you fill out your outline. So a bandsaw, right? This is the very first thing that you want to have highlighted, right? Do not use the miter gauge and rip fence at the same time because the wood will bond. There's a couple questions on there, specifically 3, that are really wordy and they're easy to get wrong. So if you highlight the 3 things I tell you to, it's going to make your life a whole lot easier. You won't have to worry about getting the question wrong. So on a bandsaw, the wood will bind if you use the miter gauge and rip fence at the same time. Okay, so the next thing we had was a drill. All right, just going over some of these real basic tools right here. You want to make sure you use a center punch to locate the center of the hole. Okay, so that was pretty easy. There's your center punch. This is what it looks like. A 1/2-inch chuck. Okay, most drills, if you go to the store and you buy a drill, 9 out of 10 times it's going to come with a 1/2-inch chuck. So we just showed the 2 different kinds of chucks. Right, the one on the right here, you can see how it has the grooves, and we use a chuck key to tighten that with. The one on the left, you would tighten that by hand. So it's just a different style. The joiner, this is the other thing that you need to highlight. The depth is controlled by the front and feed table. Tomorrow in class, I'm going to show you how to use some of these things and set some stuff up. So today we're just focusing on the notes. So this is the second thing that needs to be highlighted. The depth is controlled by the front and feed table, okay? And this will make more sense tomorrow. It's what a joiner looks like, a planer. And the third thing you want to highlight is place the thin end first. So you want to slide the thin end of a rough piece of wood first, okay? A portable grinder, the big thing is don't use if half of the wheel is worn away. So once that wheel is worn down to about halfway, you want to go ahead and throw that wheel away and replace it. Once it becomes more than halfway worn, it becomes unstable and it can fly off, and we don't want that to happen, okay? You're going to see several questions about how many hands to use. You always use 2 hands with any kind of tool. It doesn't matter if it's a saw, drill, sander, it doesn't matter. This is a plunge cut. It's where you have to make a cut in the middle of a piece of wood. You just want to make sure that your saw is at full speed before you attempt to make that cut. Table saw, the teeth pointing in the direction of the rotation. So in other words, you want your teeth to be facing whichever way that table saw motor spins. We also talked about why you don't want that blade sticking up more than about 1/8 of an inch. That way, if your hand does slip, it'll cut your finger, but it's not going to cut it completely off. So that's a safety feature. You always want to measure from the inside of the guard to where the blade starts, not the middle of the blade or not the other side of the blade. To have an accurate cut, it needs to be where the saw blade starts. And then we showed each saw blade, right? A circular saw, table saw, it's always 1/8 of an inch thick, right? A saw blade's always 1/8 of an inch thick. Guards are in place. A radial arm saw, we talked about that yesterday. The saw is going to push through the wood. Both hands on a sander. When you're using a sander, make sure that it's running at full speed when you take it off the material. Okay, you don't want to leave it on the material and turn it off. That's going to leave you a rough spot on there. And then that's a belt sander. And there we go. It's another sander. Dimensions of a belt determines your sander. So if you have a 4-inch wide belt and you have a 4-inch sander, if you have a 6-inch wide belt, you have a 6-inch sander. All right. And that's what we talked about today in class. And then just to kind of help y'all out, we had this power tools identification that I put together. And we'll go through all these tools again because we are going to have a tool ID test. So you can just kind of scroll through and it has a picture of the tool. So you can say, oh, I don't know, I think that's a compound miter saw. Oh no, that was a radio arm saw. That's a jigsaw. Oh no, that's a bandsaw. That way it can just help you learn some of these if you're not sure what they are. All right. So today, just go ahead and finish up the notes on this unit and then you'll be done. Okay. And we will see you all back in class tomorrow.